In just the last few years, artificial intelligence has absolutely exploded. It's gone from this kind of niche tech to a full-blown global economic force. The amount of money pouring in is just staggering, and it's happening at a speed we have rarely, if ever, seen before. So today, we're going to break it all down, the numbers, the arguments, and the huge shifts that are happening right under our noses. Okay, to really wrap your head around the scale we're talking about, just look at this number. By October of 2025, a single company right at the heart of this whole AI boom, Nvidia, hit a market valuation of $5 trillion. I mean, that's bigger than the entire economy of every single country on Earth, except for the US and China. And look, this was not a slow and steady climb. Reaching that $5 trillion mark meant the company's value had quadrupled in just 2 years. A rise that fast, that steep, is exactly what has everyone talking, and it all boils down to one single critical question. So, what is this? Is this the real deal, the foundation of a brand new global economy? Or is it just a massive speculative frenzy, a bubble so big that when it finally pops, the consequences could be devastating? Well, that's what we're here to figure out. All right, let's dive right into the sheer scale of this thing. The numbers behind what some are calling the AI gold rush are, well, they're almost hard to believe. So what's the engine behind all this? It's not just hype. Take a look at Nvidia's data center revenue. That's the part of the company selling the actual chips that power AI. It surged an incredible 409% in a single year. This is about real products, real sales, and just massive real-world demand. And it is definitely not just Nvidia. In 2025, companies related to AI accounted for a staggering 80% of all the gains in the American stock market. Think about that. Pretty much the entire market's momentum was being carried by this one sector. And you can hear this sentiment coming from the very top. NVIDIA's own CEO, Jensen Huang, said that a tipping point has been reached. The people inside the industry don't see this as some passing trend. To them, it's a fundamental global shift in how everything works. So where is all this money actually going? It's not just vanishing into lines of code. It's being poured into building a totally new kind of global infrastructure, something you can actually touch, something incredibly powerful. What we're talking about are AI data centers, and in the industry, they have a nickname, AI factories. And honestly, that name is perfect. These are huge, specialized facilities built for one single brutal purpose: to handle the insane computational power needed to train and run AI models. And when I say brutal, I really mean it. These AI factories drink up mind-boggling amounts of energy. A single server rack in one of these new data centers can use more than 6 times the power of a rack in a traditional data center. This is a whole other level of industrial-scale computing. And the spending spree is historic. In just the first 8 months of 2024, 4 of the big tech companies spent $125 billion just building these facilities. By 2025, the debt raised just to fund them hit $182 billion. And the projections? Well, by 2030, global spending could hit nearly $7 trillion. But whenever you see numbers this big, moving this fast, it always brings up that old question. Is this real or is it just hype? The ghost of bubbles past, especially that dot-com crash, is definitely looming over all these conversations. And listen, these aren't just whispers from random people on the internet. We're talking about some of the biggest names in finance, people like Ray Dalio from Bridgewater Associates, who are drawing direct lines back to the dot-com crash. They're basically warning that the similarities are unsettling. One of the big worries is this practice called circular investment. So what is that? Well, it's when the money starts to look like a snake eating its own tail. It creates this illusion of massive growth, when really the money is just moving around in a closed loop. So here's how it actually works. A hardware giant like Nvidia invests, say, billions of dollars into an AI company like OpenAI. Then, OpenAI turns right around and uses that exact same money to buy the essential chips it needs from Nvidia. What happens? Well, both companies get to report huge investment and revenue growth, and boom, their valuations just skyrocket. And the warnings are getting louder. The Bank of England has officially warned of a sharp correction. The International Monetary Fund is highlighting the risk this poses to global growth. Even Jamie Dimon, the head of the biggest bank in America, has said that while the technology is real, a lot of the money being invested could just disappear. But on the other side of this whole debate, there's a really powerful argument that this is not a bubble at all, that this is the foundation of a new economy. The people on this side say that comparing this to the dot-com era is just a fundamental mistake. A lot of that optimism comes from projections like this one from Goldman Sachs. They estimate that generative AI could add nearly $7 trillion to the global GDP. That's a 7% boost to the entire world's economy. So this isn't just about stock prices. It's about real, measurable gains in productivity. Proponents of this idea say this time is totally different from the dot-com era. I mean, back then you had sky-high valuations for companies with literally zero revenue. It was pure hype. Today's AI leaders, they have massive profits and huge cash reserves, like 3 times higher than their 90s counterparts. The driver here is measurable growth, not just wild speculation. And even the chair of the U.S. Federal Reserve, Jerome Powell, has drawn a really clear line in the sand. He's pointed out that the AI sector is built on substantial realized revenue. That huge spending on data centers isn't just speculation. It's actually acting as a real engine for the whole economy. So, if it's not a bubble, then what is it? Well, maybe it's something else entirely. A massive, once-in-a-generation shift in where economic value gets created, and maybe more importantly, who gets to capture it. See, in this new AI value chain, the biggest winners are actually at the bottom of the stack. First, you've got the hardware companies, like Nvidia. They're selling the picks and shovels for the gold rush. Then you have the giant cloud providers who own all the infrastructure and are basically becoming the new AI utilities. And the software companies, the ones who used to be the darlings of tech, their future is suddenly a lot more uncertain, with these super high costs squeezing their profits. This right here is a monumental shift. For the first time in decades, the river of money is actually reversing course. It's flowing away from asset-light, high-margin software and flowing toward the capital-intensive giants who own the actual physical machines. And that leaves us with one final, critical question. We are way past the point of asking if AI is going to be revolutionary. The real question now, as the whole economic model shifts from intangible code to physical capital, is a much simpler and maybe much more important one. Who is going to own the machines that run the world?